All right, just a quick word from our sponsor before we get started with the podcast today. This podcast is sponsored in part by Alsbrook Accounting, Rochester's entrepreneurial financial service provider. Their local team provides experienced accounting, bookkeeping, tax prep, and advising at extremely affordable rates to help entrepreneurs and businesses of all sizes launch and grow fast. Contact Alsbrook Accounting today at 931-841-4937 or at www.alsbrookaccounting.com for a free consultation to get your business off the ground and on track for growth. I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester's entrepreneurs. So welcome to Women's History Month, and today we're at episode 120 of the podcast. So, in case you have not been keeping up with our content on Rochester Rising, we're celebrating Women's History Month by bringing back our very popular Strong Women Creating Value series, where we tell the stories of 4 different strong female leaders in the Rochester community. So this series launched yesterday with a video with one of my personal favorite people, Kristin Pearson, the executive director of the Kabara Institute for Entrepreneurial Studies. So check it out. It's less than 3 minutes. Kristin is a very strong leader in our community, and we'll share more of her story tomorrow on our website. So on the podcast today, we have another female entrepreneur in the community, Kristin Pearson. So today we sit down and talk with Kristin about her business, Pearson Organics. So Pearson Organics is a small vegetable farm growing 5 acres that serves the Rochester community and sells most of their produce through a CSA model. So today on the podcast, we talk to Kristin about her journey as an entrepreneur, how the CSA works, and how she's been building and growing that business for the past 2 years. All right, so now on to the podcast with Kristin Pearson of Pearson Organics. All right, so we're here today with Kristin Pearson from Pearson Organics. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Amanda, for having me.
Awesome. So usually the best way to start is just talk about what you're building. So can you tell us what Pearson Organics is?
So Pearson Organics is a small vegetable farm located just outside Rochester, but mainly serving the Rochester area. We grow 5 acres of diverse vegetables and sell them in a variety of ways, mainly right now through a farm share program, otherwise known as a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. This method of marketing was developed by my 4 mothers and fathers of the original organic farming movement to help farms find income during the times of year when it wasn't as accessible, and to help people get in touch with a local farmer that could grow food for them. And this model has changed a lot over the years, and now is more to me like a farmer's market or a farm stand that people come to and can see the bounty of the week and choose what they want and connect with the land, connect with the local farmer, and make great meals every week. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's becoming more and more important to people, understanding where their food comes from. Mm-hmm. And like we were talking about before we started, being really excited about like different products that they might not have access to in their normal grocery store.
Yeah, for sure. I think globalization is a huge deal, and it's great for a lot of things, and even it's great a lot of times in the food world. But at the same time, a lot of nutrition is lost when a piece of produce travels 1,000 miles. A lot of the freshness is lost. Its ability to, stay in your fridge for more than 3 days. So there are a ton of benefits to knowing where your food comes from. I think most importantly is just community building and connection to place. There's so much distraction in our lives, and so being able to think about, this came from 15 miles away, and, if unfortunately on my farm I can't really accept visitors because I do lease land, but a lot of farms do, bring people out, get them, experiencing nature, experiencing what a farm is, and there's a lot of great ways to connect. So,
Yeah, no, we definitely become removed from a lot of where our food comes from. Some of
Yeah.
us have never grown a garden
Yeah.
or lived on a farm with animals and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
and that's fine. That's why I'm here.
yeah. So what you talked about this a little bit, but when you were creating Pearson Organics and creating this CSA, kind of what need did you see to develop this in Rochester? Because you were from here, right? And then went all around. You had a lot of other experiences, but then came back here.
Yeah, I never thought that I would be farming in Rochester when I was here in high school. I moved away to go to college and then traveled around the country farming in different states. And I think I really realized, I don't know, midway through, I had a 4-year stint in Maine farming, and I knew I wanted to own my own farm, and thinking about the challenges that come along with that, I knew it would be the best to start it in my own community. So I made a plan to move home, and I think the local farming scene and the sustainable farming scene in Southeast Minnesota is amazing, and I saw how great the roots were here and how there were a lot of new young farmers popping up trying to add to the movement and, create new markets, and I wanted to be a part of that. I guess it's hard. I think that I am offering something pretty unique down here, but I also want to say that, there are so many farms doing amazing things, and, we're really all in this together. My CSA is a little different than most. Typically, and this is kind of how they were started 30, 40 years ago, was you pay up front, you receive a box of produce every week, and that the contents of that box are determined by the farmer and really by the weather and, the season. But the way that I do it is a little different. I give you choice in what you get every week. I think, convenience is king, and people have a hard time these days spending money on something that they don't necessarily want when, you can order your groceries online. So kind of trying to meet that demand, but also knowing that there is obviously sometimes when folks get to try new things or maybe have to try something new through the CSA, but I think I saw the need for this kind of choice-based model and wanted to do it at home, so that's why I came to Rochester.
Yeah, and I think people, so it's always a nice blend, too, between things that are familiar and a little bit that's unfamiliar, too, with, like, what you're getting in the produce.
Yeah, I think people have been really happy, and I think there's a little psychology at play, too, in, I offer a pretty widespread of things, but at the same time, they're all pretty familiar items. I didn't grow anything too crazy this year, but people did say, after a couple weeks of getting things I wanted, I liked branching out and trying one new thing and, finding a new recipe that can bring a little excitement to cooking at home. But, they weren't forced into it. They kind of, came to it themselves, even though I think there is some element of, I would write it in the newsletter, like, everyone try this new squash, and then I would see it fly off, the shelf at the farm stand, even though maybe the week before nobody wanted to take it. So it's an exciting mix of, new and familiar.
It's all a psychology game.
Yeah.
Social experiment.
Yeah.
So where is the farm stand? It's not at the farmer's market, right? So where do people go to pick it up? And then you deliver, too. So you have a market really outside of Rochester, too, right?
Yeah. My main markets are in Rochester. The farm's located in Orinoco, but I live in town currently, and the farm stand is at my house, just in my garage. And we set up there twice a week for CSA members and the wider audience of people that want local to come by and pick up their shares, or they can, just buy like a la carte items from the farm stand. And so we're there twice a week, and we do deliver some shares to the Twin Cities, but that's a smaller number, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most of our members are here in Rochester.
So I was interested in how you got into farming in the first place. So you talked a little bit about how you started in Maine, but what was your kind of original interest and kind of what experience? Well, you talked a little bit about the experience that led you here, but what was that path like?
Yeah, I guess it goes back a ways. I guess I'm not that old, but 10 years. I started thinking and learning about food when I was in college. I studied botany and ecology and thought I wanted to teach, but got kind of interested in food systems towards the very tail end of school, and that led me to go to California. I worked at a high school that had a garden or a small farm, big garden, and I was a TA there and worked on the farm and was kind of torn between what to do. And after that year, I moved and started working full-time on a farm to see if it was going to be the right thing for me. And I loved it, and so I just kept going. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's something very therapeutic about gardening, whether it's on a larger scale like you are, or like a smaller scale, like people at home, especially. You know, this time of the year, you can start your seedlings a little bit soon now.
Yeah.
I started mine this weekend. I'm trying to grow some cactus in my house. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm not too
I've never tried that.
I'm not too optimistic. They seem kind of temperamental, but
Yeah.
there is something about it, though. It's
just
like,
don't water them, I think.
Don't water
Even
them.
if you want to.
They will be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the farming business, so it's been about 2 years, right, for you with Pearson Organics. So are there times that are busier? You know, is there enough work for this to be full time for you, or what's the balance kind of like? I imagine it's a lot picking up soon for you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the physical work really picks up March, April. This year was like my first full year being self-employed, and as I'm sure many listeners know, that can be a challenge. And
Yes.
So I have had to work off the farm, which, as many farmers also know, is often the case for us, to find supplemental income. But I'm hoping that next winter I'll be able to just be employed by myself, which, stay tuned. I have a goal. Hopefully I meet it. So yeah, the winters is busy, but in a different way. You know, I can definitely set my own hours and just do my computer planning work when I need to. You know, you can order seeds in the middle of the night if you want. You don't have to be up from 6 to 4 in the field. So it's kind of a nice seasonality of the work too.
Yeah.
Just having some time to rest and have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical too, though. You spend the first year or so of your business working at part-time, and then by the second time, you're usually ready to go all in. So good for you. Congrats.
Yeah.
That's a big step.
We'll see how it goes. A lot's dependent on this season and what happens.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. That's a huge step. So prior to this, you worked on other farms. So what experience did you have in kind of business development? What's that process been like? How are you learning? What are your biggest lessons? What was that process like? So many, right?
Yeah, honestly, I learned a lot from the farmers that I worked for before, but you can never learn enough until you're doing it, and there's so many things that no one will ever teach you about owning a business that you just find out when you're doing it. I joke with my brother, who manages a hotel, that we really wish we would have taken accounting in college.
I hear ya.
The botany and ecology classes are only getting me so far in that department. But when I was in Maine, I worked on the same farm for 4 years, so I really did get like a deep understanding of the operational day-to-day and the back-end work of that farm. And while I was there, I was able to lease a little bit of land from that farmer, and a friend and I started a pig breeding business on the side. And through, our desire to own our own small little business, we became part of this Journey Person program through the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. And they offered this class called Farm Beginnings, which is a national course, I think actually pioneered by the University of Minnesota. And that was really the first kind of broad look at what it takes to operate a farm from the financial end, from, employing people, all the things that you have to do outside of the field, I guess. And that was very helpful. I learned what a cash flow projection was, and
I'm actually teaching about that tonight, and I really don't know anything about it. So this should be fun. I'm bringing in someone to help me because I was looking at a cash flow sheet, and I'm like, I totally get it though. We need to be like taught this in schools.
What should your tax structure be? All these things were thrust upon me, in starting that first business, and I love that stuff, and I love the field work, and I love the physical and tangible aspects of farming, but running your own business is such a dynamic job, and that is really what has drawn me and kept me in agriculture is, the seasonality of the different types of work I get to do. Farmers are often a little more introverted and like to spend time by themselves, but, marketing I find very fun, and social media these days is enjoyable to do. So there's a lot of aspects of owning a farm that are, people maybe don't think about, but are important these days to get yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think agriculture is some of the most like forward thinking too, as far as like technology, and they've been using like autonomous vehicles and stuff for years, before it came into like the public sector. So yeah, it's definitely a very forward thinking field.
Yeah. I think what's cool about agriculture is we are forward thinking, but we're also like appreciative of sometimes thinking backwards and like, oh, what were those things that maybe our grandparents did that we've through technology forgotten about, but maybe we should go back to doing it that way. Maybe that was actually the smart way to do things.
So no, I definitely appreciate that point. I definitely appreciate that point. Yeah. Sometimes we change too far out of what was actually working well, and what's good, a good product. So as far as Pearson Organics goes, you work with farmers, but what is your kind of team like? Is it mainly you running the day-to-day operations and the farm stand? And
so during the season, which is like May through October, last season I employed one person, and him and I, probably was, close to 50-50 as far as, hours worked. I mean, I spend a lot of time after the farm day doing works, but I won't count that. So I had one guy last year, Jay, and then this season, Jay's coming back, which is awesome. And then I'll hire one or two more folks. We're doubling the amount of acres we grew last year to this year, so got to hire a couple more people or find some tractors, but I'd rather hire people, so
yeah.
That's what we're looking at for this season.
That's exciting, though, to double your acreage in your second year.
I mean, 2 to 4, they're small numbers, but still, it's exciting, to see increased interest in the CSA, to see increased, restaurant activity in Rochester. A lot of new places are opening right now, and a lot of them are interested in some amount of local produce buying. So that's an exciting thing to come. And then I actually will be at the farmers market this summer, the Rochester Downtown Farmers Market on Saturdays.
Okay. So, no, I completely agree with you. Like, the local restaurant scene has really been picking up. So that's kind of an interesting time, and people being more wanting this farm to table and knowing that this is local and supporting local. I think that's something we do well in Rochester, is supporting local.
Yeah, I think, Rochester does have a deep agricultural history, and most people who grew up here or have moved here from other small towns in Minnesota or southeast Minnesota, they knew somebody that grew up on a farm. They maybe grew up on a farm, or were one generation removed, and so it's not that distant in each of our histories that farming was a part of our families.
Yeah, I was just actually putting out a podcast today. I have to go finish editing it after we talk, but I was talking with someone from CEDA, Community Economic Development, and they were talking about the same thing. People who were from here, like yourself, grew up, whether on farms or not, went away to do whatever, college, and now we're coming back to like, whether it's the family farm and kind of taking it to the next generation, or starting their own. So definitely there's a movement coming back to your roots, and whether that's new or not, I don't know. But I think definitely it's out there. It's happening.
Yeah, I think it skipped a generation a bit. The average age of the farmer in America is 55, I think, and but there is a large resurgence in people in their 20s and 30s coming back to agriculture in some way, shape, or form, and it's needed.
Yeah.
Once all of our farmers decide to retire, somebody's got to take over their operations, and just purely like numbers wise, most kids don't want to get into farming, and so a lot of these aging farmers have no family to take over their land, their farms, and so that's one of the biggest things that folks who work in kind of the auxiliary parts of agriculture are thinking about right now. Like, how do we transition all of this land into younger hands? How do we, train new farmers? How do we get folks back on the land and growing food for their communities? So I think that's one of the things that's one of the reasons I got into agriculture, is there's a lot of, larger issues surrounding our food systems, and I maybe don't have the time to, do the work on that stuff, but it's exciting to be a part of it and to feel like, one business can make a difference and be part of something bigger. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think all these movements start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to start with one person, and yeah. No, I think that's very exciting, like change, momentum.
Yeah.
So my final question for you, over the past 2 years, what's been your favorite part of operating your business?
I think, honestly, just reconnecting with folks in Rochester. A lot of the folks that signed up for my CSA in the first year were old friends of my parents, or my friends' parents. And it's just been great to be back and see a lot of old faces, reconnect with friends, reconnect with, family friends, and just bring people together for maybe a different reason this time around. I love getting to see everybody every week at CSA pickup, and I think a lot of folks that are members now, they look forward to it because they get to see each other. So it's a nice way to spend your time. Honestly, is just getting to hang out and connect with people, and share in the bounty of the farm. So
yeah, it's definitely like building community.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's the main goal.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't really think about that part.
Yeah,
that like it's you're going to the stand and you're seeing the same people, or a lot of the same people week after week. So it is like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big reason why people shop at farmers markets or that sort of thing, is because they love that relationship that they have with the farmer, and going back week after week to check in with each other has is really important to people, and it's that consistency and that relationship and community building.
So that was my last question for you. Do you have any final thoughts or anything else you want to add?
You can still sign up for the CSA. It's open. Go to my website.
Does it close? Does the CSA sign up close at any point, or you can always come to the stand and buy? Or no?
Yeah, you can always come to the farm stand. The address is the Google address when you Google the farm. But no, there are just a certain number of memberships available for the CSA. So once those fill up, then it's closed. But the farmers market is a great option. If you don't get into a CSA this year, come to the farmers market and shop around. There's a lot of great farms there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this today and taking time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been great to be here and talk about the farm.
All right, so thanks so much to Kristin for taking time to come on the podcast today and share her story. And for more information about them, you can head to their website and check our show notes for links to that. So as I mentioned at the top of the podcast, this is Women's History Month, and this month we are sharing the stories of 4 strong female leaders in the community in our Strong Women Creating Value series. So this week we're sharing the story of Christine Beach, the executive director of the Kabara Institute for Entrepreneurial Studies. And next week we will have a new female leader in the community sharing their story in our Strong Women Creating Value series. So check back tomorrow for the rest of Christine's story and next Tuesday where we drop the next piece in this series. So to celebrate the end of Women's History Month, we are holding a very special new workshop called Mental Wellness, Goal Setting, and Time Management. So this will be held March 31st, the very last day of Women's History Month, on a Sunday morning. So what better way to start a Sunday than sitting down with some like-minded individuals and working on your goals? So even though this is at the end of Women's History Month, the event is open to anyone in the community. This is for people who are really feeling that time management and lack of priority setting is holding them back in their personal and professional life, or people who know they just want to sit down and set some goals but haven't been able to find the time to do it. So if this is you, join us for a 90-minute workshop on March 31st, and let's all work together to bring forward our best selves. So during this workshop, participants will work to understand their personal and professional priorities. They'll work to set high-reaching but manageable goals, and will develop a timeline to work towards their goals. And light snacks will also be provided. So, ticket cost for this event will go up on March 10th. Right now it's only $15. So for $15, can you even get a nice breakfast? Probably not. So why not join us, learn something, and have some light snacks? So you can find this event on our Facebook page, or we will also have the link in our show notes. And we hope to see you there. All right, so that's a wrap for the podcast today. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes so that you never miss a story of innovation and entrepreneurship coming out of Rochester, Minnesota. We will see you here again next week with a brand new episode.